This channel is for educational purposes only. Make sure you do your own due diligence before making any investments. And there is inherent risk in trading, so it's speculative. Just make sure you keep that in mind. Hi, this is Joe. Let's talk about the market. I'm going to go into the spider and the QQQ. I'm going to talk about a few other markets, but I do want to go and do the market conditions for the S&P this week. At least try and do that once a month, just to make sure we're staying on top of everything. So let's go ahead and get into the market conditions right away. One thing we noticed right off the bat is all the trends are positive: monthly, weekly, daily, hourly. I'm going to get into that as well as the momentum conditions in a minute. The volatility has dropped. So the last time we looked at this, it was above a rising moving average. Now it's below a declining moving average. It's the same thing we've been seeing. Every time it tries to make any kind of move to the upside, it just seems to falter from a volatility standpoint. And we can also see, just based on the price action, this has gotten very quiet over the last few weeks. Starting to look like kind of summer doldrum type action maybe. But one of the key things, and I want to switch this over to a weekly chart because this is the one that I brought up about a month ago, where the weekly ATR for the S&P has been below a declining moving average for quite a while now. And we've got this trend formed. And but this line is still declining even over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So we're going to expect to see this turn up, and probably needs to get through the moving average before we can expect any kind of a real shift in market action or change in character. So we just want to kind of keep that in mind. The overbought, oversold, this is bounced off. It didn't quite make it to the 50% level for the RSI 5 weekly. We're back up into kind of an overbought condition around 74, but not extreme. So not a whole lot there. And then as sentiment is back to 38%, it's been bouncing around between the low 30s and the upper 30s for a while now. So again, no real signals out of those indicators at this point. And I think one of the key things we want to be on the lookout for is this weekly ATR, and seeing it be, from a more meaningful standpoint, jump up through its moving average after this trend. So that is, I think, the key thing to take away from the market conditions right now. Let's go ahead and look at the different trends. I'm going to start with the Spider Monthly, which has made a little bit of a move in terms of getting away from the moving average. And I've been mentioning that. If you notice, last month was an indecision month, meaning you opened, it tried to push a little higher and then came down and hit the 4 SMA, and then came all the way back up and closed right where it opened the month. So really more of an indecision month. Now we're trying to push up, but right now there's really not a lot of decision in this month either. It's not like we opened at the low and are sitting at the high or anything like that. So we want to kind of see if we break this 4, and especially if we can close the month below the 4, that might give us a little bit more risk of this wanting to come back down towards the 18-month moving average. But at this point, we still haven't taken out a monthly low. I mean, if you go back and look at my videos, I started bringing this up back in here. It's just higher bottom here, higher here, here, and now. So until we see a monthly low being taken out, I think, we have to sort of assume that the bias is to the upside. The other thing that I continue to mention, and I hope you guys understand why, we're looking at a situation where the 2 moving averages are moving up at about the same rate. And I keep saying this because it's really important. And until we see a change in this, you have to have an upward bias. You have to sort of be thinking, I'm looking for stocks that I like in my approach, and I'm looking for good entries and stuff like that. But I want to continue to play this game to the upside until one of two things happen. Either this starts to jet away from the 18, which causes the 18 to jet away from the 40, or we get a situation where this chops around enough to cause the 18-week to start to roll and sort of flatten out and top out. if either one of those things takes place, then I think the risk of the market, correcting to a more significant degree goes up. What I don't like is the action in the momentum. Both MACD and ADX have dropped down. They're not really confirming the action here. And, it's a little concerning what we're seeing from that standpoint. Now, if we push up to a new high and we continue to see this to drop off, then I think that increases the risk a little bit. But again, the overall bias for me is still to the upside. I still think this is the key time frame to be on the lookout for. This is the key time frame that is trending at this point. Daily chart is again more flat, but it is above the right. The moving averages are now rising, and the 18 is above the 40. Now they're not parallel. They don't have the same kind of a look on the weekly, and we haven't really broken out yet. But I'd have to give this from a trend standpoint an upward bias. We're nowhere near confirming on a MACD basis because the MACD is way down here compared to this high. So there's really not confirmation on a MACD basis, and ADX is way down at 10. So if we break out and we get kind of one of these, maybe like a big size bar to the upside that causes this green DI to kind of break out, and we'll start to see the blue line starting to rise based on that, then I'd start to feel a little bit more confident that maybe we're going to actually go through a little bit better, maybe run to the upside. But right now, it's just kind of, low volatility, low trend strength, and not a lot of action, frankly. I mean, we really haven't done a whole lot over the last few months. Finally, we're going to look at the hourly, but there's just not a whole lot going on here. I mean, look at the choppy action in this. And while the 18 is above the 40 and then both lines are rising, ADX is way down at 10. Green DI stays on top here, but it's real choppy. There's not a lot of decisive action one way or another. Let's go back to the monthly. In fact, let's look at all four time frames. The QQQ, it's in the same boat on the monthly chart. Extended and not making a lot of progress. This is a little different because it has taken out the monthly low. It took it out back here, and then it did it again last month. So not as strong, but we're not seeing any downside follow through. And the momentum conditions on this time frame are a lot better than they are on the spider. So that would tell me that, yeah, we could correct and come back some, but these conditions look okay at this point. Let's look at the weekly chart. So it's sort of like we've been bending but not breaking. The weekly lines are still rising. The 18 is starting to lose a little bit of slope on the weekly here. The momentum has certainly lost a lot of strength, both on the MACD basis and an ADX basis, but price isn't breaking. And it's doing more of what we had discussed as a possibility, which is sideways. And it might stay that way for a while, or maybe it tries to break out. I think if it tries to break out, that would actually be maybe a little bit more negative, especially if it has any kind of an extended little run here. We're going to show divergence on both MACD and ADX if that happens. So I don't know. I'm sort of expecting a little bit more sideways action at this point, especially if we are entering into some kind of a summer doldrum type pattern. It could be a little bit more of like an upward drift. But if that's the case, it won't have a lot of power behind it, and we won't see these improve very much at all. So I'm looking for that one sign again, like I was talking about on the S&P. If we got a real strong breakout move here with some momentum characteristics or volume characteristics that looked attractive, then maybe we can get this thing going a little bit. Daily chart. It's just kind of waving. There hasn't been a whole lot of respect for the 18. Now, last time we looked at this, we had come back down to this 18, and I wanted to see if it were going to hold. And obviously it did that. It held, and we've made a move back to the upside. So now I think we're testing this high. Are we going to break out? I doubt if we're going to break out the first time on this test. But again, it really kind of depends on what kind of volume we see showing up. If volume shows up, we could see some follow through. But I sort of question the potential for this to do anything really dynamic right at this point in time. let's go ahead. I want to show you a few other markets real quick. Let's look at silver. I haven't mentioned silver, but look at the monthly chart of silver. You made this big, strong breakout move, and notice how this is forming a little bit of a ascending triangle somewhat. And just has a lot of power behind the move. Again, this is on a monthly chart. If we look at the weekly, we had this massive, massive up move here, and then we've just consolidated in a pretty orderly manner, working off the overbought condition in a way that would lead me to believe that there's more upside coming. And then I am going to give you a quick update on the Bitcoin because there's been a lot of volatility here. So we're kind of back to this same level here, this 30,000 level, I think is key to watch for this. If we break 30,000, then I think we have to be a lot more concerned about what could take place here. There's a big open area on this where this broke out from and then just kind of took off. And, really between 15 and 30, it's kind of like open air. And this is kind of a risk zone. So I don't really want to see this break 30. I'm kind of the opinion based on the way it's been reacting. And if you notice these kind of tails that have formed, that we're probably going to stay in a range between maybe even 50, but probably more like 30 and 45, something like that, and maybe form a sideways channel. But we need to quiet down and form some kind of a triangle or something like that before this is going to be ready to go. This is not a buy. I would not view this as a buy unless I go down to a really short time frame and I want to trade this for a short-term trade up. Then I would not be considering this a play right now. This is just breaking the 18, which is rolling over. So yeah, there's some room for this to rally. And if you want to trade, you could do that. But from a trending standpoint, I think we've got a lot more work to do before this is ready to go again. So that's the update for the week. Make sure you hit that like button and make any comments, and we'll see you next time.